Good morning, sir.
ఆడియో సెట్టింగ్స్ లోకి వెళ్ళాలా?
ఇక్కడ మీరు మైక్ సింబల్ ఉంది కదా సార్,
మైక్
జూమ్ లో అక్కడ అప్ యారో కొట్టండి.
హలో,
మీ వాయిస్ వస్తుంది సార్. అప్ యారో కొట్టారు, అక్కడ అప్ యారో కొట్టారా మ్యూట్ దగ్గర? ఇది అప్పర్ యారో ఉంది కదా సార్,
అప్పర్ యారో ఉంది,
అది క్లిక్ చేయండి సార్ మైక్ దగ్గర.
స్విచ్ టు
హలో,
ఆడియో సెట్టింగ్స్.
అక్కడ ఆడియో సెట్టింగ్స్ చూసి టెస్ట్ చేయండి ఒకసారి. అక్కడ పైన ఏం సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉన్నాయి సార్? స్పీకర్, మైక్రోఫోన్ అను స్పీకర్ ఏం సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉన్నాయి?
మైక్రోఫోన్ వెన్ జాయినింగ్ మ్యూట్ కాదు, ప్రెస్ అండ్ హోల్డ్ స్పేస్ కి. స్పీకర్ సేమ్ యాజ్ సిస్టమ్ అని ఉంది. సిస్టమే ప్రాబ్లం అయితే ఐడెంటిఫై చేయట్లా.
ఇక్కడ పైన అది సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యే మైక్రోఫోన్, అది సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యే స్పీకర్, రెండిట్లో ఏది సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉన్నాయి సార్ మీకు? సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యే మైక్రోఫోన్, సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యే స్పీకర్.
అవును,
అది ఏవేమి సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉన్నాయి?
సేమ్ సిస్టమ్ అని ఉంది.
సేమ్ యాజ్ సిస్టమ్, ఓకే. ఇది స్పీకర్,
హలో,
స్పీకర్ ఏం సెలెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉంది సార్? స్పీకర్ కూడా సేమ్ యాజ్ సిస్టమ్ ఉందా? కావాలి సార్. మరి
లేదు, మార్చండి సార్, మైక్రోఫోన్ మార్చండి సార్. సార్ టాప్ ది మైక్రోఫోన్ టు హై డెఫినేషన్ ఆడియో డివైస్ మార్చండి.
ఎనీవే లెట్స్ స్టార్ట్. వినపడుతుంది కదా?
వాయిస్ వినపడుతుంది సార్.
క్లియర్, వెరీ క్లియర్.
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ టు ఆల్.
సార్ టాప్ ది మైక్రోఫోన్ టు హై డెఫినేషన్ ఆడియో డివైస్ మార్చండి.
ప్రశాంత్, గురుస్వామి, గౌతమ్, వీరరాఘవన్, నీలకాంత్, హనుమంత్ రెడ్డి గారు, భాస్కరన్, మాణిక్యం, భరత్, సోమయ్య, సుబ్రహ్మణ్యం, ఆవుల, ఉప్పుస్వామి, సుబ్రహ్మణ్యన్, అభిషేక్, నాగరాజ్ పట్టార్. వెల్కమ్ యూ ఆల్. Aryan, Ramarao, good morning. Another 2 minutes. Elan Murthy, Raghavendra, Sivaraman, Akkam Azim, Rajesh Perika. Good morning and welcome to you all. One thing, I'll switch off the fan. Please, some noise. How is it, Bhaskar, now?
బాగానే సార్, వాయిస్ బాగుంది.
Okay.
వాయిస్
మీరు మాట్లాడేది తక్కువ వస్తుంది సౌండ్ యాక్చువల్లీ. వెంకీ, అజయ్ జాదవ్, వినాయక్ దాల్వి, రవితేజ, జాహిర్ హుసేన్, మెట్ల శ్రీనివాసరావు గారు, గణేష్ జయరాజ్, కాడా రాజశేఖర్, జితేంద్ర పటేల్. Welcome you all today. Another most important topic and closer to my heart as I'm a structural engineer also. Subramaniam, yeah, thank you. So seismic resistant design, of course, and detailing. So this is the very important topic. Lot of stuff to be covered. So overview of the topic is introduction, and we'll briefly touch upon what is an earthquake, just to refresh our thoughts on earthquake and what are its effects, and Gujarat earthquake, my experience, and world disastrous earthquakes, and seismic resistant design case studies from my office, and detailing and design code provisions. So this is the overall topic that I'll be covering. And we all know, 750,000 people lost lives in 20 years due to earthquake disaster. In fact, everybody says earthquake won't kill people. Actually, earthquake is a natural phenomenon, but it's non-engineered structures. I always say that no engineered structure will fail actually, if it is engineered. So this is the very important point every engineer has to, nobody should say engineer has done a bad design. No engineer will do bad design. If he's an engineer, he will do right design only. So that's why we are today updating, refreshing our knowledge and experience on this earthquake resistant design. And strictly speaking, retrofitting shall be done to all structures every time IS code gets revised. So now, Subramaniam, my colleague, we should take a decision. All engineers should take a decision to write to our clients for all our completed projects that IS code is revised. Please retrofit your structure. Otherwise, your structure is not compliant with the design. Maybe insurance people may not cover this. So we should also educate the insurance companies that any structure that's not retrofitted with revised codal provision. Suppose some building is constructed 30 years back, let us say. That means 1990. Then the applicable code was 1978. After that, IS 1893 has undergone 2 revisions in 2002 and 2016. So unless you make your structure fit to these codal provisions, how anybody can guarantee the performance of the structure? Because the seasons are changing, the behaviors are changing, and technology is developing, and every structure has to be retrofitted as per the latest codal provision. In fact, this I realized when I attended a Structural Engineers World Congress, and I chaired a session on seismic resistant design, and I have seen 5 Japanese one Japanese paper presented on retrofitting of the buildings post Kobe earthquake. Kobe earthquake, if you all know, until Kobe earthquake happened, we were all, entire world was designing these buildings for horizontal acceleration only. Earthquake was perceived to be having only horizontal shaking of it. But post Kobe earthquake, it was realized that there will be vertical acceleration also. So then entire Japan, the buildings were redesigned, retrofitted for vertical acceleration. But in India, we failed to do even comply with the even oldest code. So this is what we are today discussing and trying to learn about this earthquake resistant design. So rural buildings need more seismic resistant design. Everybody thinks that ground floor building doesn't require earthquake resistance. Why? Ground floor building also will collapse. In fact, until Ahmedabad earthquake, in India, we have seen only rural earthquake, whether it is Bihar earthquake or Latur earthquake. Urban areas were not affected. So everybody was thinking buildings have collapsed because of the earthquake. But buildings have collapsed not because of earthquake, because they were not designed. They were not engineered. They were not constructed as per earthquake. So today we'll be learning or understanding the requirements of this caudal provision for all these buildings. So this is what I'm covering today. So global seismic hazard map. If you see this is America, Northern America, and the Western coast, and this is Chile and South America. Africa is fairly safe actually. And Asia, you can see very largest area of hazard is there in Asia. And in India, we have this Western Kutch region and Northern Himalayan region. And East, we have Northeastern state. And then we have this Indonesia, we keep seeing the thing. And on the East, we have this Japan and New Zealand also in the hazardous scale actually. So as engineers, we should know where we are standing. And then continent-wise, if you see, this is the map which I just updated yesterday. I was going through some literature, 1998 to 2017. This is what 20 years I'm talking about, 7.5 lakh people losing lives. But if you see this green is Asian continent actually. So whether it is economic losses or affected people or deaths is all more in Asia, and we are all in the Asia. So there are almost 80% of the losses, economic losses are in Asia. That means the design, the compliance to seismic resistant design is very less. We have seen Nepal earthquake, how many people have died, and we have seen Gujarat earthquake, how many people have died. And if we want to prevent this loss of lives, we should educate people. We should educate the lawmakers that every building should be seismic resistant compliant. Now, people in Delhi or northern India are highly in risk zone actually. So this is, we are seeing a lot of tremors in the last 2-3 months. About 10 tremors are there. So it is giving warnings and indication. But still, our rulers, lawmakers failed to raise alarm to the public. Public should be aware, in fact, about this seismic resistant design and the risk that we are in for our lives. Like Corona, if we are all taking care, we have to take care of earthquake also. So this is the earthquake zone map of India. So we have primarily have, earlier we used to have 1, 2, 3, 4. But now we have made it 2, 3, 4, 5. Every building anywhere in India needs to be designed for earthquake. That is the thing. And if it is zone 3 and 4 and 5, compulsory ductile detailing has to be done. And this is the Western Kutch region, I said, and Gujarat and this AP, Telangana also has got some of this zone 3. And fortunately, in southern India, we have zone 2 and 3 only, southern India. Northern India, if you see Delhi and Uttarakhand, Bihar, and West Bengal parts is all in zone 4 mainly, and part of Bihar is in zone 5, and Northeast completely in zone 5. So we should know these zones, because whenever we are designing any structure, preparing the design, and Goa, here you can see zone 4, and Gujarat and part of Rajasthan is in zone 4, and then Rajasthan is in zone 3 and 2. So this is, and Madhya Pradesh is in zone 2 and 3. Maharashtra is in zone 3 and 2 actually. So direct effects of earthquake, we should know what are the direct effects. Surface faulting, we see the faults happening, and vibration of the soil, ground cracking, and liquefaction, and ground lurching. Ground lurching means sudden jerk and sinking of the ground, lurching that happens, and differential settlements in the buildings or ground. Lateral spreading of the soil, like landslides happen because of the, even if it is a normal soil also, there will be lateral spreading of the soil, and the landslides that happen mainly in northeastern regions and Himalayan regions. We see most of the landslides happening. So let us understand what is the earthquake all about. It is basically ground shaking and vertical acceleration and vibrations transmitted. Normally we have wind transmitting. We always rely on earth for transmitting our loads. But if earth itself transmits the load to the structure, where do we transfer? So this is the very, all dead load, live load, wind load, all other loads we transfer to the ground because we assume ground is stable. But if ground itself will be shaking during this seismic condition, so we have to design, it's a special design actually for structural engineers. It is all structural engineers, it is a challenge and we have to learn clearly about it. So earthquake. So what is earthquake about? We should also understand how the earthquake happens. So this is the focus of the earthquake and this is the epicenter transferred onto the ground. It is called the location of the epicenter. And we have these waves, energy, particularly this is, in structural engineering, we always deal with energy actually, whether it is earthquake, wind or dead load, we have static forces, we have dynamic forces. It's all about the energy transfer. And so here you can see the fault scrap. How fault happens? This is for a geometrical geometrical compliance, the incompatibility of the geometry. That happens, then you will get these faults actually in the soil. And also sometimes consolidation of the soil or lateral movement of the soil. So these faults happen. Normally, these faults are existent in the ground itself. For example, we have seen Latur earthquake, Koina Dam. Koina Dam was constructed on fault and that has caused the earthquake itself actually because of this, you're causing excess loading. So for every special large structures, we have to do the geological study, whether it is a power plant, whether it is a huge water reservoir, or it's a dam, or it's a high-rise tall building. One has to study the geology to understand the existing faults and condition of the ground. Like we do the geotechnical investigation up to 10 meters, 20 meters, because it's a normal loads up to 2,000 tons and 4,000 tons. But beyond that, you have to study the geology of because the load transfer will go beyond our substrate of the soil and then goes into the rock below. So we have to study the history of the geology of that location when we design the very tall buildings. Like Saudi Arabia, it happened they wanted to build a 1 mile tall building. When they found geology didn't support that 1 mile tall, so they restricted to 1,000 meters. So like this, we have to study the geology of the, so this is the lurching. You can see, I have taken this picture because it is easy to understand railway track. And this is a siding. You can see how it has sunk. The soil has sunk here permanently. So this is the lurching. Otherwise, railway tracks, you always build on the same level. But still here it has, so this is the effect of lurching during seismic condition actually. So the direct effects of earthquake. Now I'm just showing as an engineer the basic equation of this one. So we have the shear, basic seismic shear, and we have the base shear, and then we have the displacement, and we have the mass into acceleration in the building and mass into ground acceleration. And we have the damping coefficient and then velocity that is measured in the thing, and then Kx, stiffness coefficient into deformation. So this is the basic equation of the earthquake. So the force due to earthquake, M into acceleration, is actually, this is the equilibrium equation of mass into acceleration of the structure, because the acceleration of the structure is also dependent on the stiffness of the structure and the structural system. And damping, you can see here, whatever damping can happen due to ductility also. So these are the things, and so this is the overall equation of the thing. And next, indirect effects of earthquake or tsunami. This is realized in 1996, first time, the first tsunami of the century, because so tsunami is the result of earthquake. And Seychelles or secondary, slightly lesser effect of earthquake, because in lakes it can happen. Suppose you are constructing buildings around the lake because it gives a beautiful ambience, but still sieges can cause effect on this building if not directly earthquake. Water can raise, high wave can happen due to this earthquake, and landslides will happen due to this earthquake, and floods also can happen due to the earthquake, and fire accidents because of this power line snatching and the short circuiting and all in the buildings. So this is the photo, just a view for siege. Siege can happen like a storm surge, it is called, in when there is a cyclone and all. So the water level can suddenly rise by 3 meters, 4 meters like that, either on seasides or river sides due to earthquake actually. So this also we have to consider siege effects. And liquefaction, all of us know what is the effect of liquefaction, which I'll explain in detail as we move forward, but just I'm showing introduction to all these effects I'm explaining. So seismic resistant design and construction is to prevent non-structural damage from minor shaking. What are non-structural elements? We have the partition walls, we have the flooring, we have the cupboards, we have the furniture, and we have the windows, we have the doors. All these are come under non-structural elements. So we have to, the objective of seismic resistant design is to minimize the damage of non-structural elements. We cannot totally eliminate the damage, but we can minimize the damage and prevent structural damage and minimize non-structural damage in occasional moderate shaking. And if it is a huge earthquake that goes beyond because predicting the actual earthquake effect on the structure is very difficult. So in such case, we can only give the robustness to the structure. There may be some elements failing because it's such a complex scenario in the structure. We should only avoid collapse or serious damage in rare and major ground shaking. This is the objective and the mission of seismic resistant design. Let us understand. And we should also educate the people that we cannot give 100% zero damage to the structure and non-structural elements. We should qualify always in our design brief that any earthquake resistant design cannot give guarantee of 100% performance, because the quadral provisions itself will not give you guarantee for this. And my experience of these earthquakes is, first experience was post-Gujarat earthquake actually. I had visited Ahmedabad on 30th of January as a volunteer, structural engineer volunteer too, because out of 60 structural engineers in Ahmedabad, 30 were arrested. And 30 engineers have gone underground because in the fear of arrest. So there is no engineer left, structural engineer left in Gujarat. So 2 of us had to travel from Hyderabad to Ahmedabad. And I had the first-hand experience of people's perceptions post-earthquake actually. And I was also in the committee appointed by the government, selected by the government at that time, along with, I had the fortune of working with Professor A.S. Arya, who is no more, he's in heaven now. And he's the earthquake specialist, and I worked with him to draft the guidelines for damage assessment of earthquake affected buildings. We did and submitted to the government, which is now code also, how to compensate the damage due to earthquake in urban scenario, because this is the first urban earthquake that is experienced in India. And involved in panel formed by Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation to draft guidelines for permissions, which I'll be sharing here, and designed reconstruction of housing in the state in Kutch region and Jamnagar area. I have done the design of these earthquake resistant design structures, even ground floor structures. And involved in Latur earthquake reconstruction also. Prior to this Gujarat earthquake, Latur earthquake happened, and then I was also involved in this reconstruction of Latur earthquake, maybe some 200 houses or 1,000 houses. I don't remember exactly. And now I'll be sharing today this project design case studies. We don't give any design without complying with the seismic resistance. It's not a credit, but it's a responsibility. So these are the photographs of the Gujarat earthquake, which I have taken. I was there personally in all these buildings. We have studied these buildings and assessed whether these buildings can be restored or not. You can see these walls have collapsed and frame is intact. So this is a big point of debate for considering the infill effects in the buildings actually. Some buildings you can see they have failed in the soft story actually. So there are a lot of photographs I have, and the whole city of Ahmedabad, this is all in Ahmedabad only, has reduced to the rubble actually. I visited Navsari, Vadodara, Surat also, in addition to Ahmedabad. And so these are the photographs, because you should understand what are all the weak things in the building. Staircase also is a weaker thing. Many times, some staircases stand depending on the direction of our orient. Here you can see staircase has failed and saved this building. Otherwise, they are connected. 2 blocks are connected with staircase. Normally, it happens lobby and staircase. And a weaker fellow has failed, and a stronger fellow has retained. Is retained. So this is the photograph, and here you can see the. Yes, Sridhar. Ravatలేదు audio.
వస్తుంది సార్, వస్తుంది.
Sridhar ఏంటి హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేశాడు?
క్వశ్చన్ ఏమో సార్.
శ్రీధర్ బాబు చెప్పండి ఏంటి?
No, sir. Unfortunately, hand touched there, sir. Sorry.
Oh God, don't disturb me, yaar.
Sir, no, sir.
Okay. So this is the Gujarat earthquake, Ahmedabad. I spent almost 1 week there. We hardly slept actually during this 1 week. I had the opportunity to interact with Professor Sudhir Jain, who is the director of Gandhinagar IIT, and CVR Murthy, who is the Udaipur IIT director now. They're all experts in earthquake, and I had a lot of discussions, deliberations on method of restoration, rescue operations of these buildings, earthquake-affected building. Very lot of experiences. I can write a book on this 1 week experience actually. So it was like when I landed in Ahmedabad, people are living in the streets, though their building is there. As I explained other day also, the psychology will be affected. People, psychology will be affected. They feel unsecure, insecure. They cannot go back to their house because they have seen their neighbors dying before their eyes and buildings collapsing, coming onto the ground like this. And so it was our responsibility as engineers to give back their confidence actually on the built environment. In fact, there was a prediction that this earthquake will repeat on 3rd February. There was a prediction by astrologer, but we said that no earthquake of the same magnitude can repeat in such a short time. Prior to this earthquake in 2001 in Gujarat, the previous earthquake in the same Kutch region happened in 1810 or so, almost like 200 years. It took because it's all the energy accumulation, it takes time for energy to accumulate. So we explained, I was on TV channels, though I didn't know Gujarati or even Hindi better, I was trying to explain along with the SPs, collector and principal secretary of Gujarat state on a channel to the people that what is the earthquake and how it repeats and all that. So it was a great experience, and these are the buildings which we studied. People used to come to us to recommend demolition, some people used to come to us to recommend retaining the structure with the restoration. These are all the things you get. I mean, we feel why it all happened just because no engineering, ill-engineered structures or no engineering. So this is the biggest thing. And Gujarat falling in such a risk zone, many buildings were not designed for earthquake itself. Then I thought I must take it up. And this is a building which I had to give the demolition sequence, because on the side of this building, there was a heritage building. And it was tilting towards the heritage building. This used to be the news beginning, the collapse of this. I was witness to the collapse because I have given the imploding collapse sequence, because I always say that a structural engineer should know the failure first. If you can predict the failure mode, then you can design correctly. This is also explained in Purushothaman book. So you should be knowing, you should draw the failure, how it happens for your structural system, then you will detail correctly. If you detail correctly, at least you can prevent the collapse. Whatever worse that can happen, as a structural engineer, we should prevent the collapse. So these are the other structural element failures. You can see, I have seen some columns with the 6 12 mm bars with still 5 floors. I mean, I can't design even a ground plus 1 building with 6 12 mm bars. It's not adequate, but this is what, and with a soft story added to that. So you can see even the ties are so less. So it has, you can see the concrete has failed here. So this is another top. That's why you see always this happening in top zone and bottom zone. Here you see the spacing of the ties, and there is no tie immediately below the beam also. So there is no confinement. That's why the concrete gets crushed. Maximum shear zone here. Shear transfer has to happen here. And the maximum compression happens here. And if you don't have confinement of the ties here, this concrete will fail actually. And this is another building which has collapsed. Everywhere rubble. And this, by the time we went, they started reconstruction. I mean, again, this is also not correct. So this is, we call it as a cosmetic treatment. Some people were just filling the cracks with mortar. And some people are doing this, thinking that this is the jacketing. And this jacketing also is not correct. So the restoration, rescue operations were this one. And so these are, I talked about Gujarat earthquake because that is the nearest one that happened in India 20 years back. And now these are the world examples of the earthquake. And this is the Nagata, Japan earthquake. And you can see the buildings collapsing like this because of the liquefaction actually that happened on this. So whenever we are designing the structures on the sloped areas, I'll explain about liquefaction and how to take care of that. And these are importance of adequate lateral bracing. You can see just they have put the portico nicely. It looks very nice, but structurally it's not stable. So we should understand whenever there is a diaphragm action, there should be adequate lateral bracings because the moment transfer and shear transfer cannot happen just with this slab, diaphragm and column directly. And this is another structure slide. Showing the damage to 1.1 meter dia column. We think it is very strong. See what happened due to the earthquake. You have nice false ceiling, lighting and all. What is the use? Structure is lost. So this is another soft story effect. You can see the rigid beam and column and Nicaragua. This is in Nicaragua. This is a 2-story reinforced concrete frame building, suffered significant lateral displacement. 2-story, G+1 only. This is the thing for those who think that G+1 doesn't require earthquake resistant design. And this is another hospital in California, a 5-story medical treatment and care unit. Because the hospitals are most important, because when this earthquake or any pandemic happens, hospitals are the very essential infrastructure for people to go and get treated. You know, they get injured, the loss of life, to prevent rescue and relief operation, you need hospitals first and water supply first. So these are the things. So that's why important buildings, there should be more importance factor. And you should see that these buildings survive even after the earthquake. That's very important, but still they have failed here. And this is the behavior of one of the 1st and 2nd story columns in the building slide. So this is how you can see column, such a large column, even with confinement reinforcement, has failed like this. And this one floor has come down. And this is another earthquake collapse of the 1st floor. And this, you see the column, by seeing itself, you can feel they're not properly tied. And the result is seen here with the earthquake. And this is the Four Seasons apartment building, Anchorage, Alaska, 1964. And so these are all the failures that happened. So you should see how the spalling and crushing of concrete happens near the support and base always. First, it will happen here. So that's why you need I'm showing so many pictures because worldwide it is realized that the confinement reinforcement ductile detailing has to be done near to the support and near to the column beam junction. And this is the X shape. This is in Ahmedabad, I'm sorry to say, we used to call it Desai phenomenon. So there are so many structures designed by structural engineer Desai, which had, because of the stress reversal, and you will have this X phenomenon, window X phenomenon. If you have two windows, between the windows, you will find this X cracking. This we observed even in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad also. And this is the shear wall collapse also. See, I'm just showing a building that is there. That is normally designed nowadays, shear wall with transfer slab and transfer columns and all that. It is very dangerous. You can see what happened here. So now coming to the earthquake resistant design. So always we should understand the failures, as I said, structural engineering, then only we can design properly. So buildings planning, design, construction, and public safety and comfort. Because disaster, when earthquake disaster happens, we have to see that there is a disaster response, disaster relief, disaster rescue is possible. We cannot kill people by not having this public safety and comfort. So this is the acceleration, ground acceleration you can see in both the directions and how the building responds to this ground acceleration. So plan the building and structures in a symmetrical way, both in plan, horizontal axis and elevation. That means we have to maintain the uniformity of the stiffness. Avoid open ground or soft story which is used for car parking. In fact, these are the guidelines we drafted in 2001, even before these codes have come, 2002. And avoid weak story and provide strong diaphragm. Avoid weak story like wall and diaphragm, not column and diaphragm. Diaphragm is slab actually. So that is thinner slabs and flat slabs are to be avoided. Avoided, we don't say ban. Provide openings for doors and windows at a distance of minimum 0.6 meters from the column edges. Follow IS 4326 page 11 for more details of masonry structures. And then do not add open appendages like water tanks, swimming pools, etc., which will create a vast difference of center of mass and center of rigidity, actually. See, these are all very important. And conduct soil test and investigate the soil nature to avoid soil liquefactions. This is 2001 recommendations. So follow the IS code and NBC provisions while planning in the planning stage itself, and which will aid more safe structures. And select good materials like concrete ingredients, brick, steel, and especially steel having an elongation of above 14% and yield strength of minimum 415, but now we have 550 also. And then the yield stress shall not be greater than 415. Steel having an yield strength of 500 may be used provided the percentage of elongation is above 14%. This we drafted in 2001. So make sure before approving it by means of lab test results. So people say that I got the test report from the manufacturer. No, never accept a test report from the manufacturer. We have to collect the sample at the site and get it tested. Provide plinth beam at the ground level and a lintel and the roof band in masonry structures, and do not lower the beams in RCC frames at lintel level. We see this in rural areas actually for convenience of construction. What they do is they do construction like mullion and band type. That means they'll put the beam on top of the window or door level, and they don't put the beam at the floor level. So we lose the advantage of the diaphragm action if you don't have the beam right below the slab. So this is very important point we observed in post-earthquake. We observed many buildings failing because of there is no beam for transfer, because the diaphragm slab cannot transfer the shear to the columns directly. And so you need a beam definitely at the slab level. So earthquake resistant design, what is it all about? We have to choose the right structural system, very important, and then analysis and design methods. And we should consider the foundation and soil structure interaction, and then structural detailing. Detailing of structure is very important, ductile detailing. And the structural system, it should be symmetric. It should have uniform mass and stiffness. You should calculate the mass distributed in all the corners, all the center and all. And rigid frame and external frames, infill frames, and expansion and construction joints. Infill frame we can design, but we have to do tying of the bands and mullion in the infill frame so that the wall won't collapse out of the plane and you lose the infill frame effect. I'll show you that. And if you don't want infill effect, you can also design, but you have to isolate the masonry with the beam and column by separation joint and treat it for aesthetic purposes separately, but you have to maintain no contact so that you will not get that stiffness of the infill. I'll show you the explanation of this infill systems which you observed, and expansion and construction joints and isolation systems and materials to be used for earthquake design. So this is the symmetry I'm talking about. Preferably, you should always have this rectangular, square shape, next rectangular shape, and this symmetrical hexagon or corners trimmed also is okay. But avoid this kind of complex shapes because the massing will change drastically. Here you can see the steps and these shapes. In fact, when you get this kind of hollow rectangle, hollow square kind of thing, you better isolate by giving separation joints. And we have done that also. You have to have the separation joints for the earthquake. Center of mass is like for a rectangular shaped building with all symmetrical walls and all that. You can calculate the center of mass by simple our moment of inertia principles, mass into CG distance. You calculate. I cannot go to that level now, but please calculate the center of mass based on moment of inertia. And center of rigidity is actually stiffness. You have the stiffness, shear stiffness, flexure stiffness, and you calculate the shear and flexural stiffness and see that you have the uniformly distributed stiffness on both the direction at all levels. This is about center of rigidity actually. And this is what I mean uniform mass and stiffness. For example, this building, which normally people design these floating columns and all, this has no uniform stiffness actually. There is a sudden variation of the stiffness. You can see here you have 5 columns, here you have only 3 columns. So directly stiffness is a function of shear area, shear stiffness, and it is a function of moment of inertia for flexural stiffness. So if you know these two things as engineer, I feel you all know about it, and shear area and moment of inertia. And here you can see stilts, open stilts. Here also is the infill effect. If you have, there is a sudden change of stiffness here. So if you don't want infill effect, if you construct the wall by packing and all and say, I don't take infill stiffness, that is wrong actually. I'll show you I've shown some of the pictures where it has failed here because of the sudden variation of the stiffness. And the plaza type buildings also. Of course, we have to design these plaza type buildings, but we have to analyze considering the 3-dimensional effects and all that. So 3-dimensional analysis is compulsory. It's not an option. We have to do, and modeling, we have to consider infill effect depending on how it is constructed, and foundation design, foundation to be modeled with the stiffness of the soil. For file foundations, we model separately. For raft foundation, we model separately. And isolated foundation, we model separately. And loads representation, uniformly distributed loads, concentrated loads. And mainly you have water tanks, overhead water tanks, swimming pool on the terrace, very nice. But design-wise, you have to take care of that. And seismic coefficient method. Yes, you can do seismic coefficient method if you are not able to do it for this uniformly distributed mass and uniformly distributed stiffness. There is a qualification in the seismic coefficient method. You can see if your frames are regular frames and if your stiffness is uniform, if your mass is uniform, you can conveniently use seismic coefficient method for preliminary design. For final design, because there will be so many stress concentrations and all, you have to do the 3-dimensional analysis and response spectrum analysis or model analysis. You have to do this, and estimate the correct frequency, natural frequency of the structure, and calculate the forced vibration analysis also. So if a building is enough to resist the earthquake, then such building is called earthquake resistant design. Such design is called earthquake resistant design. And design, but it is analysis of forces, buildings due to loads acting on it. Sorry, this is a very 2001 presentation. I am still using, I don't want to edit this. I will know what I was 20 years back by reading this. So design, only multi-story buildings require scrutiny in the present bylaws. But our recommendation to Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation was investigation to be mandatory, geotechnical investigation, and empanel geotechnical engineers, and proof checking by senior structural consultants also should be made mandatory. There is no response spectrum you should do only for this many floors. No, you have to do for all buildings. Let us not give any concessions. Okay, for any building, any structure, I have shown you G+1 building collapsing. So we have to do the analysis, three-dimensional analysis for every structure, consider the masses as per the design intent of the owner, and design for that structure. And in construction, presently, at that time in 2001, only municipal engineers checked the construction. But there should be a full-time construction engineers to be made mandatory. This is our recommendation to Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. And quality checks as per standards. You can see all my lectures, because I do all this only because of my experience post-Gujarat earthquake. I have become more responsible actually after seeing that calamity and disaster. Materials, workmanship have to be made mandatory checking by the engineer on site. So this is the analysis to show people the effect of infill. I have just done it. So if you don't consider earthquake shear, so this is the column shear force diagram. And this is zone 3. If you consider earthquake shear, you can see how the pattern has changed. This is earthquake shear. This is on my software, CAFAD. In 2001, I did. And this is the maximum with zone 5 shear. So you can compare these three, how it is varying with zone 5, zone 3, and no earthquake. And this is the without earthquake bending moment diagram, how it looks when there is no earthquake, or no earthquake is considered. That is dead load, live load combination. And this is zone 3 bending. You can see how this is a stilt. You can see how much of variation in the bending. And this is zone 5 bending. So I have done all this again by considering the infill shear. So if you consider the infill effect, this is the change in shear force. And this is zone 5 with infill shear. So this is the variation. And this is the bending with infill without earthquake consideration. But we have done the infill means the strut model you consider. And this is the zone 3 with infill bending, earthquake zone 3, infill bending. And this is the zone 5 infill bending. This, in fact, I remember I have gone to Solapur, Sangli, Vijayawada, Vizag to give lectures, and of course in Hyderabad, these post-Gujarat earthquake, to bring awareness among engineers. We have gone and explained all these things. So what are the Indian codes of practice? IS 1893 part 1 to 5 for various building. 2016 is the latest code, and for design requirements, that is for design requirements. And IS 13920 2016 is for ductile detailing of reinforcement. And for high-rise buildings and structural systems, you should use IS 16700 2017. These are the latest codes that we have to consider for earthquake resistant design. I'll share that with you. And these are some of the projects which we have designed for earthquake resistance. So this is the structural system. You can see the frame with the shear walls and then central core. This is a 20 cellar, 2 cellars stilt plus 24-storied building. And this is the top view of that structural frame. You can see we have tied all the frame. And also this is, I call it a buttressed core, because you can see this, we have given the stiff beams connecting the shear wall, and the central core to get the benefit of the central core stiffness. And we have saved a lot. And this is the plan of the foundation raft, which we have designed. And the raft foundation is given for this, and parking level. We should always carry dynamic analysis. There is no exception for static analysis. So this is a sectional view. As I said, if you have all uniform, simple structure, you can go for quasi-static preliminary. But a final drawing you release only after dynamic analysis. And this is the terrace floor plan. And this is the detailing of shear wall. Mainly, you can see the reinforcement at the corners, edges. You have to detail as per the wall reinforcement requirements and also the ductility provisions. You can see this is the 3D view of that shear wall. This is the lift core, you can see. And we have analyzed, considered all the stresses, and this is the deflected shape of, this is the variation of shear force in the shear wall and the core. We have extracted, you can see. And this is the moments. Of course, in shear walls, you'll get moments lesser because it's primarily a shear resistant structure. And this is the metro beams, which we have designed, precast beams. The detailing, this is zone 4, actually in Gurgaon we have designed. And we have taken the huge diaphragm action. Here you can see, though these are all precast eye girders, we have connected through reinforcement and diaphragm with in situ concrete. So diaphragm action is very essential in any seismic resistance actually, because that is rigidity within floor so that it will distribute the shear uniformly to all the supports. And then this is the pier and foundation on piles and pile cap. And then we have the girders cast in situ. And this is the rail, which is detailed here. And interesting thing in railways is we don't have to design for seismic because they're on wheels actually. And so this is the thing, the detailing at the stepped beam. You can see the transition zone for the stepped beam. All this detailing is done. This is the cross section of the station actually, because station buildings are more critical in earthquake resistant design. These are all eye girders precast, and there is a diaphragm, and this is the railway platform side, and this is the concourse side. Next, retaining walls. This is also very important. People think that retaining wall or compound wall need not be designed for earthquake, but they are also important. This is what I'm trying to say. This is a 1 minute. Hello.
Sir, unmute చేసుకుంటున్నాను.
Okay. So this is the retaining wall, and you can see the shear key that is provided, and then we have a raft. For a 12-meter high retaining wall, you have almost like 9-meter base, and this is the retaining wall with water. So detailing for earthquake resistance for the retaining wall, and this is the counterforts that we have provided for this retaining wall with the shear key. So this is the plan of that retaining wall. You can see. So it is a huge, of course, this is same retaining wall. We have base, we extended for 22 meters height also. So runways, yeah, we have here also in one of the locations, we had to design for liquefaction because of the soil. Yeah, you can include the shear walls in the stilt if you want to match the stiffness of the infill effect. So this is the runway base actually where we have used the membranes actually to prevent this, to prevent the liquefaction on runway, because it's a 2-kilometer runway. So we have provided separation polythene sheet and then synthetic fiber we have used. And the structural analysis has to be carried out. I think we are running short of time. Sorry for interruptions. And a decrease of percentage. So how to increase the ductility? How to increase the ductility as it is defined as the ability of a structure to undergo inelastic deformations beyond the initial yield deformation, and with no decrease in the load resistance. This is the main purpose of ductility. So how do we improve the ductility? Decrease the percentage of tension steel. Means don't go for 4% steel in the columns. Try to keep 1%, 1.5% steel in the column, and increase the percentage of compression steel. And because compression, you should not depend on concrete alone in beams, for example. So you can use the compression steel and then decrease in tensile strength of the steel. That means don't utilize, even if you are using 550 grade steel, better restrict your steel tension capacity to 415. FY, you give it as 415 only and design, so that you have additional ductility in the structure. Increase in the compressive strength of concrete, minimum M20 those days. Now it is M25 minimum, and M35 and above you do it. Increase in the compression flange area in flanged beams, T-beam and L-beams, you increase the compression flange area. And because compression failure is not ductile, actually, it is a rigid failure. So, and increase in the transverse reinforcement, that is ties and stirrups you have to increase. So that will improve the ductility. So popular earthquake resistant techniques are, earthquake may not be able to damage entire building, but it damages members of it. So special techniques are base isolation devices and seismic dampers. So we have active control devices, we have tendon control devices, and then we have control force devices and active time tuned mass dampers actually. So this is the base isolation device you can use. We have done this kind of structures, base isolation also. And sensors measure the actional excitation and the structural response. And then we have the active control system, computer hardware and software compute control forces, observed excitation for observed excitation, and then active dampers they will be activating. Actuators provide necessary control. So you have to use the control engineers for designing this. So these are also called intelligent buildings, which will respond depending on the force. And control force devices, active tuned mass dampers, natural extension experiments indicate that 25% less damage by using these tuned mass dampers and tendon control. In fact, if you have Japan kind of situations, one type of damper is not adequate. They introduce 5 types of damping, which I'll show you. So this is a building. If you take, we have the rollers like this at the base isolation, and we have the bearings at the base isolation. There are different types of isolation systems, and isolated during the earthquake, and then fixed base during the earthquake. This is how the behavior changes actually. So this is, you can see base isolation here. And the seismic dampers are like this. This is the actual photograph of a seismic damper. So it will be acting against the acceleration due to earthquake actually, so that it will damp the force itself. So there are different methods. You damp the force, you damp the structural element, and all that. So these are other types of dampers. Once you cross the base isolation, we have the viscous dampers, we have the friction dampers, and we have yielding dampers. So these are all the examples of yielding dampers. So here you have we use even the Teflon sheets, for yielding dampers. And the pneumatic dampers we use here, viscous fluid. And then we use friction dampers. This is the friction damper detail actually. So rigid foundations in horizontal spreads for foundation structure interaction. Always this is preferred in seismic zones. Even if isolated footing is adequate, try to provide raft or deep grade beam with tie down the foundation so that the force transfer from the base is uniformly distributed. Otherwise, it will go to the stiff frames and the weak frames will fail. So this is the fixed base building, isolated base building. So these are the examples of various fixed base and isolation. If you have the isolation during earthquake also, it will just move as a rigid thing. And this is the raft. We have designed a floating raft in a high earthquake resistant zone. This is a project we did. And liquefaction is there in this project. We had liquefaction effect. That's why we have designed floating raft by removing the loose soil and replacing with the concrete. So though there was no basement requirement, we have gone 3 meters deep to compensate the liquefaction effect. Is one major problem that occurs in soil during the earthquake. Liquefaction is the phenomenon most often observed in saturated, loose, low density and uncompacted sandy soils. Please remember, that's why I put it in red. Saturated, loose or low density or uncompacted sandy soil. You can see the sandy soil you put in a bucket. Just put the vibrator, pin vibrator to the bucket. You see what happens. It will get compacted, consolidated, is it not? In the earthquake, the same thing happens. The wave, the movement of the waves suddenly consolidate the sand. So that is called the liquefaction. If the soil is saturated by a condition, this is all explanation of the liquefaction, how it happens. But I explained very simply. So any wave, when you have, or we, in fact, practically we experience that. You put, on a plate, this loose material like what we use for cooking and try to do the wave. And you can see the liquefaction effect on that. Water pressures may build and so this is the liquefaction, loss of soil structure. Soil has a structure, is it not? There is a stress transfer happening when you have the building. Suddenly there is a wave, this soil suddenly settles, then this building falls. There will be a consolidation happening below the foundation. Liquefaction, good example is seashore. You stand on the bay shore actually, and you see what happens when the water comes and goes below your foot. You will go down, is it not? That is liquefaction actually. When there is no water, you stand firm. And when there is a water wave coming and going, then the sand, so this is a liquefaction, easy to understand. So you can see under your heel, you will go deeper more in the seashore actually. So this is the effect of liquefaction, which I have shown before also. And this is a liquefaction after effects, the soil, how it compacts. And mainly the services and all will be affected because of this liquefaction. So now I thought of sharing these codes, showing the codes and explain how to read, but time doesn't permit. And so this is the seismic resistant design of the columns. This is the SP16 from the SP16. And finally, the detailing, the requirements are all taken care in this, and the moment and shear, how it is detailed. I'll quickly go to the detailing aspects. And this is the column beam junction and special confinement reinforcement. Hyderabad is in zone 2. And so seismic resistant designs, columns. So we have to consider all the forces and ductile detailing. 5 minutes, I'll send it. And column beam junctions and retaining walls. So these are all the various elements of detailing is important. And as I explained in the beginning, so sorry, this is old code. I have not edited this. This is, we have to change this. All actually, IS 456, primarily seismic resistant design retrofitting has to be done. So this is the beam reinforcement detailing as per 13920. So we have to follow this overhanging beam reinforcement detailing. You can see how much extension it is done here. And then this is the column ductile detailing ties, how to tie 180 degrees link around, and preferably use mild steel if it is available. And so this is the masonry structures. This is the band and mullion, horizontal band and mullion you have to provide. And this is the beam reinforcement detailing. You can see the confinement reinforcement stirrups that are happening. And this is the typical column reinforcement details and beam junction. So you have to provide the ties for the column in the junction also. It is difficult, but somehow we have to plan the providing the ties at the beam column junction. So good planning and design will not alone aid in resisting seismic forces, because we do the best design, concrete is bad, no use. Select good materials, follow the mixed design as obtained by the lab, provide the covers as per codal provisions, and do not use the aggregates, marble pieces, etc. And we have seen that recycled steel materials and all used, and follow the design details as furnished by the structural engineer, and compact the concrete by means of vibration, and cure the concrete for at least minimum period of 14 days. And experienced supervisor should be employed to every good quality. And the conclusion is, built environment to be engineered, minimize disaster damage, and the seismic resistant design is not an option or choice. It is a must actually. Engineers should educate people and engineers to implement seismic resistant planning, design and construction, and seismic qualification of the buildings. This is very important. You have to advise your clients to do seismic qualification of the building every once in 5 years. And you should write to all your clients to do the retrofitting of the buildings for the revised codal provisions. So this is all for today. If you have any specific questions, I have been covering the question. Zone classification based on soil. No. Zone classification is based on the earthquake risk and earthquake intensity, actually. I have explained Himalayan region has got the highest zone because the tectonic plates movements and all. India is moving towards Himalayan region. That's why Himalayas are higher. So Himalayas have the material of the ocean bed, that means ocean bed has moved to Himalayas. Minimum size of columns in industrial and residential, 300 mm. 300 mm size is preferred for zone 3 and 4 minimum dimension. What is the behavior of buildings along hill slopes? Yeah, that you have to do very carefully. On hill slopes, you have to stabilize the slopes and you have to do the reinforced earth so that it won't collapse. You have to bother about upstream, you have to bother about downstream also. Load combinations as per IS 456, we have to consider dead load, live load, earthquake, dead load, earthquake alone. And which type of isolated footing foundation is advisable, trapezoidal or box only? Reinforcement in top face is to be provided. That is always better. We should enforce a system to deploy experienced supervision engineers to implement the designs. Yeah, correct, Chittibabu. Improve the workmanship. There is always confusion on the site for different grade concretes. Yeah, that's really important. It's better to avoid different grades of concrete. Try to use uniform grade. Why shear key is required? For shear transfer, actually. You have the shear always associated with any bending. So if you are designing the foundation raft, there will be a movement in the raft, and for that movement, you have to transfer the shear to the ground. What precaution to be taken for higher grade of steel? Try to don't utilize the full capacity of the steel for a ductile behavior, actually. Otherwise, also you can use it, but you be careful in detailing. Yeah, higher grade also, you have to design bond stresses and all carefully. Higher the grade of material, technology should be much more, and ensuring those grades is very important. You should follow the quality standards very meticulously. How to plan retrofitting in old building, in congested areas. Yeah, you have to strengthen the columns, you have to strengthen the beams. We have to do it and introduce bracing sometime. Thank you, Dhanselan sir. Tamil Selvan, thank you very much. So, Dhanselan sir is working for National Highways in Chennai, and Tamil Selvan is working for Tamil Nadu Electricity Board and also Vice President of our Association of Consulting Civil Engineers. So thank you all. If you have any question, which one is preferable for dynamic analysis? No, both we decide depending on the type of the structure, response spectrum or time history. You can put a message to me, I'll answer. Sairam, yeah. Thank you very much, Hiramatji. So we'll keep in touch tomorrow, Monday again. Next class is on Monday. We are left with 9. We have completed 16. I'm heading towards 50 live lectures by Tuesday. Tuesday is the 50th live lecture. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a safe time. Weekend. Thank you. Bye.